So the Kansas City Chiefs apparently said, hey, paying Patrick Mahomes a ton of money was fun. Let's pay another one of our superstars a ton of money. And so they did, as they paid out Chris Jones a 4-year deal worth $85 million, and it's $60 million in guaranteed upon signing. So, again, a lot of money. I mean, you're talking over $20 million a year, which is definitely pretty good. But I mean, listen, the guy's really good. I mean, he's one of the best interior defensive players in the NFL, and certainly in terms of pass rushers. I mean, last year, a lot of people didn't realize this, but in 2018, Chris Jones had 15 and a half sacks, which is pretty wild. Typically, in a regular season, that would be enough to lead the league, but, obviously 2018, that's when Aaron Donald had his absurd season, so it kind of took focus away from players like Jones. He also had a touchdown that year, too. I mean, just a wild season in 2018, and he was really good in 2019 as well. I mean, he did miss some time, but still ended up with 9 sacks of his own, and has clearly established himself as a premier interior defensive lineman, and somebody that I feel like Kansas City, they feel like having him on their team, it gives them a real shot, a better shot every game, and a better shot to win the Super Bowl every year. Obviously, Mahomes probably gives them the best shot out of anybody, but keeping as many of these stars on your team, keeping the core intact is really good, because as long as you can now draft well, they can certainly be successful in the future. And anyways, I'll stop babbling now and get on to the actual film study. I'm going to try to show a little bit more about him just being a good interior defensive lineman in general, and less about him just being the pass rusher. Obviously, I mean, listen, I call him interior defensive lineman. He will play on the edge too. He plays everywhere, but more often than not, he's playing on the inside. So that's why I say that. And like on this play, there's going to be an Oakland defender who's going to try to block him like that. So it's a bit of a weird angle. And again, Jones is the kind of guy where you have to pay attention to him on every play, and if you don't, you will suffer the consequences. And watch, you can't block him at a weird angle. And watch how right when the ball is snapped, Jones just quickly is moving in. He just moves so quickly that if you give him just a little split second, he's not gonna stay. He's not gonna hesitate. He'll run very quickly, and at this point, there's not much you can do if you're an Oakland player. Jones continues to run through, makes a quick tackle for a loss of yards, and, if Derek Carr was throwing the ball, he would have been right in Derek Carr's face. I mean, there was just no winning in that play for Oakland, and again, that's just kind of what he can do. He has that quick first step, which is really probably maybe the best thing about him is his footwork. I think his footwork and his hands are so good. Like, there's no better example of having good footwork and hands than this play. He's going up one-on-one against the right guard, and what he's going to try to do is he's going to try to get his left arm and put it on the guard's right arm, and watch how he's able to do it so successfully. So right off the bat, he just grabs his wrist right there, and once Chris Jones has your wrist, you might as well just, if you're a quarterback and you see Chris Jones has your guard's wrist, you might as well just take a knee, because you're going to get sacked. And watch how quickly he's able to just throw those hands to the side and run over and just deliver a blow to poor Derek Carr. It's just such a quick move from Jones. One other thing Jones does very well will be shown on this play, where he's going up one-on-one against the left guard this time. And so what he's first going to do is try to pull off a swim move, and it works out pretty well. It looks like he actually got a little bit, perhaps a little bit lucky. The guard kind of goes down a little bit, but Jones is able to very quickly get around him, so he's going to be able to generate some pressure, you would think. However, if you look at Carr, he's already throwing the ball. So, okay, well, good move by Jones, but unfortunately, Carr got rid of the ball quickly, so you weren't able to really, maximize off of that one situation. However, Jones is still going to be able to leap up and knock the ball away. And that's definitely one of the great things about Jones, and one of the real interesting things about his game is, you think that, okay, obviously pass deflections had something to do with a player. I mean, they leap their hands up at the right time. There's obviously something there, but it's crazy to how high of a degree Jones is able to get those pass deflections. I mean, he has 20 pass deflections, so pretty interesting for someone who just throws his hands up, that he's able to knock the ball down 20 times in the 4 seasons he's been in the league. That's 5 times a year, and he hasn't had significant playing time in many of these seasons. So he's It's pretty interesting. One play I really like is this one, where it's going to be a double team, and then the right guard is going to get off the double team to try to block a linebacker, and the player they are double teaming is Jones. So, okay, yes, on one hand, it's bad that Jones is the guy you have to block, but you know what? It's a double team, and you can have Trent Brown move over, and he'll be the one blocking Jones. So, not the end of the world. But one thing you're going to see Jones do is he knows it's a double team, so he's going to try to not get moved, and watch how he tries to get as close to the middle as possible. He knows what's going to happen right here. He knows that they're not going to keep the double team on him this whole play. What's probably going to happen is the guard is going to be the one who gets off and blocks a linebacker, and so he's just waiting for that moment, which happens right now. So once this does happen, because he fought so hard to get into the middle, he's preparing so that he can then try to push Brown off to the side, and that's going to be exactly what he's able to do, and he's able to help make this tackle. And again, that's not easy to do. Brown is not an easy guy to move to the side by any means. That's a big human to move, but Jones is able to do it. Again, Jones is the kind of guy, I say it, about several guys, and it's really true of him. He's someone you have to create your game plan around. You can't just say, well, we'll figure that out. No, you have to figure that out beforehand, and you have to have a plan B, C, D, E, and F, because, there's going to be a lot of things that come up, and he's really tough to game plan around, but I think you have to, and it's especially difficult when they also have Frank Clark, who will often line up on the opposite side of Jones as opposed to right next to him. So it's not like you can just run to one side, because you have a couple of really good players on each side of the line. He also can really help in the running game, like on this play. Again, he's going up one-on-one against Brown right here. And notice how right when the ball is snapped, notice how quickly he's going to get off of this contact. So he notices that it's a run to the right, and so, the natural motion is going to the right. And for Jones, he's going to sit here and say, well, hey, I don't have to create contact. The run's not going in that direction. I don't need to push Trent Brown back. All I need to do is try to get further to the right, and Brown isn't to my right, so I can just run in that direction. I don't need to worry about him too much. So he just attaches and runs off, and he's able to make a tackle. Again, that's nothing crazy, but he does these kind of things consistently, and sometimes it's these little subtle things that kind of go unnoticed from a lot of fans. People like to talk about the sacks and the pass deflections and, the touchdown or whatever, and there's, reason for it. Obviously, those are the biggest factors in what makes a player good. But these smaller and more subtle things also are huge factors for sure. And I think it's the combination of the two that Jones has, where he can make those splash plays, but can also make these consistent plays, these more typical plays that really makes him very good. And one more thing is that he's just a tough guy to move. Like on this play, a right guard who's going to be blocking him, and he's going to try to push him, to the left side of the screen. And watch how Jones is able to really get his feet planted and get his arms up like that. So you notice how, he's low, his arms are going up because, he's getting low, which, forces the wedge up, and he has his foot planted back. So it's basically just creating a wedge, which makes it very difficult to push him back. Jones is already, 6'6" and 310 pounds. So he's already not an easy guy to move around. I think a lot of people don't realize how heavy he is because of how tall he is. But, he's over 300 pounds. He's a big guy. But also he can use his technique so well that he can then just, there's not really any separation. He's easily able to get off that block and, again, make a quick tackle. So, he's a really underrated run stopper, I think. Everyone talks about the pass rush, and rightfully so. I mean, the pass rush is great. But he's also just a tremendous run stopper. And so he's really a complete player. And for the Chiefs fans, I mean, Christmas came early this year for sure. I mean, getting Mahomes and Jones locked up, I mean, you have to feel pretty good about that. I mean, I personally, when I saw the Mahomes signing, I thought it was over for Jones. I thought Jones was going to play one more season in Kansas City, and then next year, once they have to start paying Mahomes bigger money, he'll walk, and that'll kind of be their, how they make up for it. But nope, they're going to keep him, and they're going to just say, hey, we're going to lose some depth, but you know what? We'll trust we can find free agents who maybe don't need as much money but want to just play for a good team, or perhaps just draft well. I mean, that's how you're able to be a consistently good team for a long time, is you keep your core and then you just, find ways to get the role players. Because, role players you can get no matter how much cap space you have for the most part. There's ways you can do it, whereas for a star, it's often very difficult. At least that's, I think the most logical mindset. Yes, the Patriots, they have a mindset of we're just going to get, all role players and then everyone will, we don't have to rely on stars at all. But I think that you shouldn't look for the Patriots to figure out how to be successful because they're just a complete anomaly. Get your star players, and again, I'm not saying there aren't situations where you should get rid of a star player, but if you are going to get rid of a star player, you want to at least get compensation for it. You don't want to just let a Chris Jones walk in free agency. So signing him to a big deal makes a lot of sense to me. And I really can't see this contract working out poorly. The only way the Chiefs will really not continue to be good, in 3 years from now or 4 years from now is probably just if they cannot fill up the gaps that they'll probably lose from some of these, B players that are going to leave or, C players that are going to leave. You're going to have to replace them, but it's easier to replace, a C player than it is to replace Chris Jones. But that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.